and I was clean and sober basically for an 8-year period of time, and then I cycled in and out. But when my brother was sick, I was ostensibly clean most of that time. And when he died, it was a awful, I mean, my brother kind of connected us all in a way that it was almost impossible to imagine him not being that glue. I mean, it's the hardest thing of anything I've ever been through. And I know people are close to the brothers and sisters. I'm not, again, it's not unique, but the only dream that I ever had, nightmare that I ever had as a kid was losing my brother. Like the one that you wake up in a cold sweat. And I did. And it was really difficult. And my wife of 20 years stopped talking to me. Maybe 20 years of reasons not to have a relationship, but it was pretty awful timing. And I fell apart. And I went to rehab almost immediately. And I stayed in rehab for a long time. Inpatient, outpatient, for close to a year, and between up in a place in Pennsylvania and then back in DC to be near my kids, and was not wanted by my ex-wife back in the house. And so for the first time in 46 years, I'm living alone. I don't have my brother. The rest of the family is in this awful state of grief. And we feel rudderless, I think, for the first time in my life. Completely rudderless. And anyway, long story short, is I kind of held it together for about a year, and almost exactly a year to my brother's death. And then I admitted that I slipped up with a drink, and the doctor, the outpatient program that I was in, I was going to 4 times a day and getting tested. I said, look, I drank. He said, well, we want to test you anyway. And I said, if you test me, it becomes a part of a record. And I don't want it as a part of a record because it's not protected by HIPAA. And he said, well, you can't come back in if we don't test you. And I said, well, this is what I did. And they said, it doesn't matter, you're telling us. And said, we need it for our records. I said, well, fuck you. And I walked out to the park across the street, in Lincoln Park in DC, which is not very far from the White House, which is, I knew to be kind of sometimes an open air, drug market. And I saw someone that I knew from my past life as being in the streets, a woman that I referred to as Bicycles. And I knew that it was kind of a suicidal thought. I said, do you got any crack? She told me crack. And then that was it. From there, it just progressively got worse and worse.
What kind of places did it take you?
Physically, it took me to, geographically, it took me to some, the worst parts of any city, town, state that you've been through. And, I know that you've been through these places I've watched, but, it takes you to, metaphorically and literally, to the Super 8 motel off the highway, rooms for rent on an hourly or daily basis, for tens of dollars. And that's kind of where it takes you.
Takes you to public housing too.
Yeah, and not safe places. Places people live, but, not safe places.
How long was the run for after you saw Bicycles?
That was in 2016, and then June of 2016, about almost 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, there were periods where I would stop. I would try to get help, or half try to get help, or appease people in my life and say that I was getting help. And so I did a whole host of different things to try to pull myself out of it. I did try, and people would come in and out of my web and try to help me, and my level of toxicity would drag them down until they would kind of disappear. And then people that would come into my life that were nothing but blood-sucking leeches that would literally saw vulnerability and latched on and drained me of literally every thing that I had, from emotional well-being to my physical well-being to my bank account. And that was the ebb and flow for almost 3 years until I met Melissa. The one thing that is true about it is that, as I said before, I met some people in that period of time that are living and have no escape. I had an escape, my family. I thought that I had burned all bridges. There was no exit. I was in a hotel in a big city, and I don't want to name it, city and this drug dealer who had pretended kind of to be my friend, would organize these, things around me where they just would live off of me for like days at a time, and they'd get hotel rooms and they'd bring people in, and it'd be like a big party, and I would find myself invariably kind of like trapped in the room and kind of trotted out to deal with hotel security or whatever at any time. Someone had given me something, and there was a spa tub, like a big hot tub pool.
Officer Joe Brown, Portland for duty. It's my 10th deployment. I need to know who team leader is right now. Sounds good. Chilling and Seabass told me telepathically he is team leader. Portland for duty. Tango spotted. Got a team by me. I killed one of them. The other one started smoke. There were people chasing me.
And they'd found me floating face down in the pool. And this person saved me. And I woke up after about 12 hours where they just held me. My whole point of the story is that this person put themselves at an enormous risk to save my life for nothing other than to be human, because every single other person that was there, literally, they stole the shoes off my feet, stole my clothes. I've gotten over the fact that, you know, Matt Gaetz or Eric Trump is going to like use this story as another, you know, data point for like how fucked up Hunter Biden is. But I don't give a shit anymore. And what I don't give a shit about is because people, even in the midst of their addiction, some people can be so